Hello, people. Welcome to my hangout. Today I have a very special guest, Maria Al-Masani. She's from Canada, and I'll let her introduce herself to you. Maria?
I'm from Canada, but I'm from Canada, but I'm also from Yemen as well. I moved to Canada from Yemen, and I have a video which I started after the war in Yemen to get the information out because there's a media blockade. I was first in Miss Universe Canada, and then I leveraged that fame during the Arab Spring to create Yemen Rights Monitor. I was a CNN agent of change. Then what happened was I got censored. Yeah, if you hear about censorship with Gamergate and everything, well, you know, 93% of media is pro-Democrat, and that was the Iran deal. I come from a Sunni region of Yemen called Taiz. So all the Sunni voices in Yemen were dropped out by major left-wing media. Basically, 93% of media refused to cover us because of the Iran deal to appease Obama. And yeah, the other 7%, that's like Breitbart and Fox News, were the only people who were covering our region, fact-checking what Houthis and human rights organizations put. Human rights organizations basically have been taking Houthi propaganda and publishing it at fact, kidnapping activists, including a friend of mine. It's very corrupt. There are lots of bribes. It's really nasty. So I tried to get the truth out about that. And as I was pulling one thread after the other, I saw a common theme about why the situation was so bad. And that's feminism and how it creates like a complete decay of civilization. So that's basically kind of the theme of, hopefully we'll have a show coming up called Cuck Watch where I shame cucks.
That's excellent. That's excellent because there are so many that need to be shamed.
Yeah. Anyone can put suggestions of cucks to be shamed for Cuck Watch. Just like put it at the bottom of the video. I would love any suggestions for cucks, including our own Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
Yeah, he would be one of the top leaders of the Cuck Watch.
Of the cuck movement, yeah. Justin Trudeau, cuck leader in chief.
There was a sort of a mini controversy when he was so in a rush. He forgot that he was going through a crowd and there was a female parliamentarian.
Elbowgate. No, he wasn't.
Elbowgate.
What he did is he ran through a crowd. He got upset. He's like a grown-up child, basically. So he threw a temper tantrum. I'm not joking. And he didn't like that NDP was making they were like a different party. They were making a stance. So he was shouting, "Get the hell out of my way," and elbowing people left, right, and center, and shoving people. And he happened to elbow a woman's breasts. Yeah, and then he apologized for it so many times. Instead of saying, "Oh, sorry, yeah, I got emotional, shouldn't have done that, and sorry for any people I like hit in my way." Do that. It was like apologizing for days. It was really, really awful. It was like, no.
It was awkward. It was so much cringe. I felt sorry for him. The way he's just trying too hard.
He's trying to be a good little boy. And right now, basically the Western civilization is decaying, and the peripheries are beginning to burn. You'll see around. The West is gradually falling apart with Merkel's Germany. This is not a time where we need a cuck as a good little boy leader.
We have a sort of a small window of opportunity of hope with Brexit. It could force the European Union to totally do a stop and think hard what they're doing. Even Merkel, because Germany is one of the biggest exporters to Britain, and if they can't do anything to them, they can't expel them from any free trade deals or anything. If they'll just have to workaround. So I'm hoping that if Britain leaves European Union, Portugal will be kicked out. I want Portugal to be kicked out because it's doing us so much bad. And,
yeah, it is. I hope, you know, what I see is, I hate to say it, but like a lot of, so here's my analysis. Is sadly, like, when you have like individual secular people, it's fine, but the big problem is feminism, okay? So, so what happens is, what I'm seeing in Germany, just correct me if I'm wrong, okay? It's so when like the church is practically absent, the church that exists in Germany is so watered down, is so over-reformed, you might as well go to McDonald's instead of a church, right?
well,
So
people are getting more secular in Portugal. We are supposedly 80-90% Catholics, but the church attendance is just so reduced. We hardly count. It's not. We're secular now. We really don't care.
yeah, so what ends up happening without a strong, but Catholicism, at least you have some traditions, right? But when you have something like Protestant that really is like reformed and over-reformed, and there's really like when it appeases, you know, completely a new structure, this is what ends up happening. I think Portugal is kind of less harmed because Catholicism is a bit more, I mean, you at least have like a framework, right? So what ends up happening in Protestant countries where the church begins to appease, comes to be no form of reference, is women and men, right, are both born rational. They are rational up to puberty, really, age 12, right?
Yes.
Rational, right? And then girls have what I call the pussycat pass. So pussycat pass is polite for pass, right? Anyway, so the girls know that if they make a mistake, like not do their homework because they party or something, there will always be that one cuck, that one schmuck who will do their homework for them in hopes of getting laid. Of course he won't get laid, right? She will go to the meanie in the sports team hoping, you know, that jerk might even look at her, you know?
Yes.
Yeah, that's how it is. So girls learn, if there is like no religious constraints on them, that they can have absolutely no responsibility at all. They can do the craziest things, and there will always be that one cuck who will do things for them, even an older guy, right? So that's the mentality they have, right? And so for men, reason is not optional. You have to be rational. You have to take responsibility for your actions. You can't just be wishy-washy.
I'm sort of guilty about white knighting and doing things for girls I wanted to impress, and that. So when I was in high school, early high school.
Yeah. See.
Until
exactly.
I was 13, 14 years old. Then I didn't hit. I was already past puberty, about 13, 14.
Yeah.
Then I started to say, shit, they're not taking any notice of me because I'm Portuguese. I was the only Portuguese at my school. And then I said, oh, fuck it. And I didn't go my own way. I didn't do a MGTOW. But I became more shrewdly in some ways.
Yeah. When you realize it's like being a white knight does not work, that's when you start to develop tactics that actually work with women.
Yes. Well, it worked for me because I married my sweethearts from.
So yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you realize probably doing girls' homework doesn't work. Kind of manning up does, right? And you're happily married. I'm happily married.
Well, so. Yeah. Sort of. First, she was my friend, and then we saw that we had a lot of common things together, and just developed naturally. Neither of us really pushed it through because she's older than me. My wife's 2-3 years older than me, and in fact, I've always liked older women. They're more mature. That's when I was 13. I was doing that to younger girls, But then I saw that the older girls were more interesting. They weren't children. They were actually intelligent, independent people. And I sort of fell in love with that idea, that position. That's why I'm anti-feminist, because I'm an egalitarian, equality for everyone.
I'm an anti-feminist egalitarian, by the way.
Exactly. Yeah. That's me as well. Yeah. So
to show how this works, okay? So the little girls who get spoiled, eventually guys like you wise up, and like you find the the tactic is that the boy does the girl's homework, and the girl isn't into how this is
exactly,
dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So eventually the guy wises up, stops doing that, gets his girl, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who are used to boys doing things for them. Many of them actually never, I mean, they have a choice to mature or not. Quite a few of them do not mature.
No, that's general. That's
what I'm saying. It's like a choice, right?
It's normal.
It's a choice to mature. It's like, as a boy, you have no choice to mature. If you don't mature, there will be no there'll be no old dude or white knight or someone to basically bail you out of your irrational decisions. So, like, reason is a choice for women. We can be and I was an ugly duckling, so I didn't get any attention because I was a feminist SJW kind of, and I dressed like a boy, and I was lucky that way, that I didn't go through this period, so I had to stand on my own, depend on my own, right? So I realized I have to depend on me to survive. So I was forced to develop reason. I don't know if I would be a rational person otherwise. If I was a spoiled brat, I'd probably enjoy being a spoiled brat because that's easier and have a emotional maturity of a 12-year-old. I don't know.
Easier,
I mean, it's easier, right? And so, and then that cements your personality. So in the future, there might be no white knights when a woman is 50 and a crazy cat lady. And then the state is her white knight. Eventually,
Yes.
So it's So it's anyway, for men, reason is not an option. There will not be a sugar daddy, sugar mommy who will bail you out, right?
In fact, they'll try. They'll try to depress you as much. Like in Sweden, is it Sweden? I think it's Sweden, the cuck's capital of the world, which shouldn't be. I don't know where they. Sometimes I'm reading out of my head, memory. A school is forcing boys to sit down to urinate, so they will make cucks of them.
Yeah, that's horrible.
That is horrible. That's torture. I think that's torture.
A Norwegian MP was raped in the butt.
Yes.
By a Somali refugee. I made a video on that, actually.
You did. I saw that. Yes. And he apologized. He said it was his fault, and he regretted it totally. Yeah.
For being raped in the ass.
That's this Stockholm syndrome gone mad, basically.
Yeah. No, this is like worse than castrating a guy. I don't know how they did it, like, to that degree. This is like really insane, and this is the whole mentality. It's that's what's going on. So the summary of, you have a society where you have women, right? And women get involved in the church. Women get involved in reform, right? So you have women, and then you have cucks who appease them. Some boys never grow out of being a cuck.
No, because the inadequate. Excuse me. They feel, for some reason or other, maybe how they were brought up.
Usually, single mother. There was actually a study proving the single mother hypothesis, which is also the cause of actually most ISIS terrorists.
And in America, the black crime.
Yeah,
Yes.
black crime, ISIS, same thing. Lack of male role model.
Poverty, and a lot of all those problems. There is yes.
Yeah, US,
Go on.
75% of kids are born out of wedlock.
That's terrible, and not just born out of wedlock. They are raised by a single mother.
Single mother.
Yeah.
So the boy will be one of two things. He will either be a cuck or he will be a gangster. Because when you...
Basically a gangster because they have hip-hop, they have gangs, they have that violent...
Well, it's actually a normal stage of development, of masculine development. We have baboons and ties. So there's actually, with monkeys, there's like 3 stages of masculinity, right? First, there is the mama's boy stage, right? The next stage is the teenage gang stage. So I call it like, first you have beta, then you have gamma, then you have alpha. The betas, they basically are submissive to the alpha male. They get no females, you know, and then they figure out they get no females. They go around females trying to pretend to be female. It eventually doesn't work. So they start becoming aggressive. Their mothers get annoyed and kick them out to the periphery. And they form gangs similar to teenage gangs. And then they will even kill an older female gorilla or small human child. My father saw some of the gangs. He was like really scared. They're like nasty ape gangs, whether it's like baboons or gorillas. But the then you have the alpha gorilla who gets most of the girls. All the girls are chasing the alpha. So the alpha silverback gorilla, he is really nice to female gorillas. He solves their problems, etc. But when another male gorilla threatens him, he kills him. He's the most violent and nicest. Like, he's the most violent in the tribe, but he's also the nicest, you know?
Yeah.
So he's nurturing to the weak and the most vicious to the strong, right?
Isn't that in chimpanzees? Because the gorilla, I know...
the same in chimpanzees, gorillas, baboons, this is like typical ape behavior. So
well, no, because there are, for example, the bonobos are totally non-violent. The bonobos, which are 96% close, they use sex as a conflict resolution. Yeah. While the chimpanzees, pan-troglodytes, they actually use violence. They have what you just described, except that you use gorillas, but they are basically the chimpanzees, and they do.
Baboons, gorillas, and humans were kind of the same structure.
No, baboons are monkeys. They're not apes. They're slightly out of that. Yeah, but the three. I'd say the chimpanzees, bonobos, and humans are very, very, very close. You can almost use each as an analogy. In fact, archaeologists to study the first humans, Australopithecus afarensis, Australopithecus africanus, and Homo habilis, we use models that we developed from observing the bonobos and chimpanzees. So
So we're similar in that sense. What happens is when a gorilla becomes an alpha, his cortisol or stress levels drop down and testosterone goes up. So it's a very chill monkey. But with humans, it's usually the alpha male, the father, hones the masculinity in a teenage, in basically a teenage human.
Yeah.
So what happens with masculinity? That there are 2 paths to it, right? There is like going from so you experiment, right? So you go immediately from mama's boy stage to the alpha stage, or you might go from mama's boy stage to the aggressive stage, and then so it's basically passive, and then some are lucky and they go from passive to assertive, but some boys go passive, aggressive, and then a father, a teacher, a male role model invests time with the boy, who the boy respects, often a karate instructor, martial arts instructor, something like that. They become assertive. So they learn that you don't use violence everywhere. You learn, especially in martial arts, kids learn you don't use violence everywhere, but there's some rules, there's some fights, this sort of stuff. Yeah. So it's anyway. So what happens when you don't have a male role model to show you what healthy masculinity looks like? Boys, when they figure out the whole being a cuck doesn't work, many of them think the answer is the opposite, being a gangster.
Yeah.
And this is the popularity of ISIS, actually, also.
Yes, it is, and also in many of the male feminists. I'm waiting for, say, Steve Shives to just explode and kill someone, because the pressure he's feeling, him and McIntosh, and who else? Who do I know that's the same? Yeah, basically the two most famous ones.
Feminists do?
They are just.
Do you know what they do in Canada?
Yes. Unfortunately, and unfortunately, I do. I keep up with all that. Yeah.
Yeah, they rape women.
Exactly.
They harass women. They sexually harass them.
And
people are saying, "Oh, Gomesh, oh my God, those women were lying." Okay, his ex-girlfriend's probably lying. What they wanted is to say, "Oh, we love him, but he hit us." But with BDSM, I mean, like, you don't know whether it's consensual or not. It's just like too much of a headache.
Yeah, but BDSM is very, very problematic.
It's like you don't know, like, whether or not it's consensual. So at this point, like, it's too messy. I would just, if I were a judge, I'm like, too messy. I won't even comment on this case. The other girl who got something and won, the trial was canceled. Because they had a settlement, and he apologized and admitted that he was humping young new interns and women who started working for him.
Yeah. Yes.
He was just like humping them at random.
That's bad. That's bad. That brings me to.
And he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know I wasn't supposed to hump office staff." He made a statement, official statement, that he didn't know he wasn't supposed to hump office staff.
No, of course not. That brings me to that case in California. I think it was California. That swimmer or that athlete that was only got 6 months in jail time. Yeah, it was California. I think that's a stupid ruling, but because of feminism defining what rape is, right?
Yeah.
It is in California, in the UK, that I know of. Those two I know exactly. I know absolutely certain is rape is penile penetration, the penetration of the penis in the vagina. But that guy didn't do that. So the judge could not. I know that he wanted to, and many people have also made videos showing that the judge wanted to give him more, but because of SJWs and feminist bullshit making up the law, he could not convict him because he did not technically rape.
This judge with the Gomeshi thing said because of SJWs and this bullshit, he just refused to convict the guy.
Exactly.
And there was another case, Duffy case, because of SJWs and media and so on. The judge said he's not guilty of anything. Because they're like, we don't want to, if we give in to SJWs, the law will become irrational.
Exactly.
Because the judges see what's happening, that spoiled girls who choose to be irrational, plus the cucks that appease them, it's like cucks and spoiled bratty girls who are irrational are actually, if you look at voting, then plus you add some immigrants who are naive, right?
Yes.
Deceive and put nice slogans. So if you combine this is always going to be greater than immigrants who have been in the country longer, plus rational men, plus rational women.
The rationality is becoming totally diluted. Diluted.
It's like with the Roman Empire, right?
Oh, I know. I hate Romans, by the way.
They stopped being like when they had this system of their gods. It's not just the gods, it's like discipline, right? When they began to be relaxed with their discipline and everything, people started, instead of being rational, they started looking at different cults. And then Christianity emerged as the most masculine one of those cults, and then they picked that, but by then the empire was collapsing.
Well, Christianity offered something that none of the other gods offered, and that was the afterlife.
Other
That's
gods,
basically, that's
there
what,
are other
yeah.
traditions that have afterlife, but
Not the same way as Christianity. If you know Islam, you were born in a country
yeah,
of Islamic. You know
yeah,
that Islam borrowed the notion of the afterlife from Christianity, not from
yeah,
Judaism, which basically the three Abrahamic
yeah,
religions are based. Abraham did not promise an afterlife to the people. He offered atonement of sins, and Jehovah, whatever, the God, would reward you, but would give you peace when you're in your death. But Christianity came along and said, "Oh no, we're not just going to give you peace. We're going to give you heaven, where you have all the goodness of everything. You can do whatever you want, but just don't do what you were going to do in heaven on earth." Do you see what I mean?
yeah. Although
Yeah.
there's like, yeah, exactly, yeah.
It's
And they
basically
had
a
a
very
code, but there was a code
simplistic
of,
summary, yeah. But yeah,
yeah. But another summary, what I saw is like when I went to Rome, is there were all sorts of like Christian martyrs who were killed in various ways, and people were amazed how they would allow themselves to go through all sorts of things for their God in a way that other pagans would not.
yeah,
So they saw real masculinity, like they would crucify men in bizarre ways, and these men would not, submit. They would not change for this, for the pleasure of the guy with the stick, right?
exactly, yeah, yeah.
And they were amazed. Wow, look at the strength, look at the masculinity. So Christianity was spread through the masculinity it provided. That, yeah, no, other guys were like, oh, I don't know what this dude is believing, I don't know what he's on. But that's pretty powerful. Look at these people. People admired that, especially people who admire gladiators would admire someone who wouldn't give up his silly little god thing, that no matter which crazy ways they tortured him.
Yeah, because they were promised martyrdom. They were promised something better in the afterlife. So of course you would. If you lived in that century where today we in the West at least, what's that word? Cherish life. We don't. Yeah.
But in let's say in India and in Yemen and other areas, people believed in reincarnation.
Yeah, the Buddhism, yes, exactly, and that it's a lot of basic. Yeah. But the West cherishes life. They want to hold on to life as that you can't kill yourself. That's in the Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. But each one of them can play around with them. Judaism, I don't know, because I even though I love Judaism, for not because of its religion, because of its tenacity and its push for brilliance and education. That's why I like Judaism, not for the religious part. I don't care about that. But Christianity, they took some of it where they will promise afterlife to that the followers. Don't do nothing now; you will get it later. But was toned slightly down, of course. But then came Islam and took that concept and said, okay, shit, get there as fast as you can, basically.
No, it's changed. No, it's more of a structure of life. So basically, what happened during Islam and how it occurred was there was a decay. So it was after the decay. There was a basically Christianity broke into different groups, and the church was really snobby, Latin speaking. There was a really high conflict, and people were battling over books, and you have peasants who don't understand what the hell that's about. But people who lived there, harsh conditions of the desert, having some discipline and community, the different things that religion provides, you will live longer. So Muhammad saw this. There were different, of course, cults and stuff, and a really hostile place because raids and tribes and all this craziness. And the Quraysh tribe, I'm a descendant of the Prophet. So what we did was we were Jewish, but we really got corrupted. So we turned our little synagogue thing. We invited everyone to place their idols and rented it out. You know, some people rent out churches after people don't use churches anymore. And people would go around and do a little pilgrimage around their little idols, and we charged rent for it, and we made lots of money. That's what my ancestors did. And then the Prophet was like, okay, everything is decaying around us. And what he did is he grabbed stuff from, he grabbed salute as the prayer and mantras from Buddhism. So that's the prayer, actually. And it's actually very healthy. Many doctors prescribe people going through stress the following thing, that, do a meditation, use a yoga pose and a mantra a couple times a day, and that will really help center you. That's actually will help calm you when stuff is really hard in life. That's actually has improved serotonin, etc. It can actually work like basically like a Prozac, so it helps.
Exactly.
It helps as a Prozac because it's how to survive the harsh condition. So there are other things where, so there are all sorts of different things, and it was a doctrine about breaking down the things that Jews and Christians said into how to survive. A lot of it was, how to live and not get yourselves decaying and in trouble. So it was the viewpoint of seeing decayed empires that were once great and figuring out, okay, what do we do? What do we do so that we live? And because there were always raids, there were always fights, and you don't pick your fights in that society. There were always Houthis who come in and raid. So you have to figure out what you're going to do with the Houthis who are going to try to raid you. So Islam from Judaism, it borrowed the education thing, saying that basically the blood of the pen of the scholar is holier than the blood of martyrs. But and scientists are the closest to God at the same time. And they abolished monks and people thinking forever about the afterlife. So you live here. You live now. At the same time, how do you protect yourself? How do you survive in a hostile world where you have to provide your own security? So a lot of it is based on that civilization is a cycle. It rises, it falls. How do you, instead of like rise and fall, become more of a sine wave? Because first you have barbarian tribes, right? And then they go and invade a bunch of other tribes, and they're stronger. And they still have very clean, they have very strong values,
Yes,
whatever their values are.
Can
then
you just keep on talking? I have to just go into the kitchen for a second, and you keep that message going. I know I can hear you from here.
So history, So history starts with a group of barbarians, and they basically use their clubs and attack a bunch of other barbarians, and they're the strongest barbarian. And they have very strong values related to strength. They are very austere because they are fighters. If you look at Spartan, even the word Spartan comes from that. So they're in a way austere, Spartan, disciplined, strong values. These are the people who managed to knock out the other barbarians. And then eventually, by creating security, by knocking out other barbarians, people within the little barbarian mini kingdom thingy, that they don't have to be focused on security. They can actually focus more on farming or trade or have a profession other than farmer and soldier. They can actually develop. So they begin to focus more time and start developing. And as a civilization, you'll have more trade, then you start having poets, because all of this is possible to have trade, because people are not focused on survival. They can actually afford to enjoy life. Then the next thing is people are only enjoying life, and those barbarians have conquered everyone around them. There is nobody for miles, and after some time, people are like, oh, why are we going around marching? Why are we marching? That's really silly. There are no tribes for miles. There are no hostile tribes. These stories of our ancestors, did they really happen? That can't be true. Let's go and have fun. Why do we have to be disciplined when we can have an orgy?
Yeah, that was in Romans. Yeah, in the Roman time as well, yeah.
Fall Baghdad, same thing. People were like, why do we have to fight? How Genghis Khan came into Baghdad was the soldiers had abandoned their posts because they were like, what's fighting? And they wrote gay poetry. And they had wine, and they were just having fun, partying all the time. They were just like partying, and they had no discipline,
Oh,
that
yes,
one day war could come.
It's yeah.
Lebanon is now Lebanon was a Christian country, but they were partying all the time.
Mixed.
It was 60% Christian.
It was well regulated. The government had equal members of Christians, the Jews, and and the president was
what happened was the Shiites.
alternated. Yeah.
Well,
what happened was basically 1966, the Israeli-Arab War, which pushed the Palestinians into Lebanon, and the Palestinians just fucked up everything.
Yep, it did, exactly. And the Shiites put the population. Well, so this was going on. They fucked up everything, right? But it was this. They were partying. Basically, the Lebanese were partying. It was a party capital. And the refugees came in, and they didn't know how to deal with the challenge, like Merkel.
Exactly.
Lebanese civil war reminds me of Merkel, because they got I was about to say about the refugees, and they didn't know how to deal with them.
Put them in camps. They let them bring their own army. I know that Yasser Arafat, basically after he was kicked out of Jordan, he went to Beirut and he set up his army there, and the government just didn't know the fuck what to do.
They didn't care. They were just partying. They didn't care.
Well, not.
This is exactly what happens in Germany. By the way, do you know that only about 5% of the refugees in Germany are actual Syrian families?
Oh yes, I do. Yeah.
The rest are Hezbollah militia.
Well,
and from
from Pakistan, Afghanistan to Algeria, you have everyone going into Germany now. Yeah,
you have people going from Algeria. You have people from North Africa, but in terms of the rest, right? What's happening is there's like EU Militia Watch. Another person to follow is Ben Davies. So they catch people who were in basically Iraq and Syria with Hezbollah, okay? They were actual militia. They finish their tour because they go for money, right? They finish their tour of duty, and then they retire on German welfare.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a system.
That's why I love Portugal. I hate Portugal. I really hate it because it's a shitty country. There's so much corruption in that, but I love it as well because we are so shitty country that even the Syrian refugees don't want to come here.
Yeah, and so what ends up happening in those places, like in Germany, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the Syrian and their complaint, and also friends of mine who are there as refugees, they're just telling me, and in Sweden, especially Sweden, they really don't like it there. So what they're telling, because they got the UN certification and went through the UN system, they didn't go through the boats.
Mm-hmm.
You know, who got there legitimately, right?
Yes.
They're saying, oh, and then they got there legitimately, and then all of a sudden this flood of people come in. And they're saying the huge problem is, it's like they're cops. They say, our cucks. It's like, excuse me, but the cops, they are like they would prefer to have 8-year-old Syrian refugee girls be cops because they would be more likely to have some balls to go after the criminals.
Yes, exactly.
Group
Yeah.
of 8-year-old Syrian refugee girls and give them police clubs, they would be more efficient and effective at going after criminals.
And many that are controlling those criminals.
They bring
Those,
people from
yeah.
war zones and cuckify their men. So their men. So the biggest problem, like legitimate Syrian refugees families have, they say it's refugee on refugee crime. They said there are criminals from war zones who massacred people, raped women, all this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're usually mercenaries Iran brings from Pakistan, Afghanistan, and then they all go through Syria or Iraq, and that's how they get to, and they go often by water through via Syria to Germany, basically.
Yeah. I saw this today or yesterday. I was reading the news and even on Twitter and that, and they're showing that some of the ISIS fighters are slipping out of Fallujah
Oh yeah, ISIS.
as civilians. They're
Yes.
mingling with the civilians. So
Yeah, ISIS and Hezbollah.
yeah, exactly.
ISIS, there is some ISIS. It's mainly like if you
They are
look at
both
East
Sunnis, right? Or Shia? No, they're both Sunni.
No.
No,
Shia is Hezbollah. So the
Hezbollah is
majority,
Shia, yeah.
So the majority of Europe are Shia, the majority, right? But
Well,
there
I
are
don't know.
there are some Sunnis because if you follow EU Military Watch, and if you follow and that means the Pakistani guy, it would be a Pakistani Sunnis will stay in Pakistan. Pakistani Shia, they'll go fight somewhere, they get some money, they can retire in Europe. You see how that cycle goes?
Oh yeah, yes,
Nobody
yes,
wants
yes, yes.
Pakistan.
Absolutely.
Nobody wants Pakistani Sunni militia. So that's the cycle, except for ISIS. So, because this is, you follow the money, right? Who's paying? ISIS is paying, and Shia
Saudi
militia.
Arabia is paying.
Saudi Arabia and Yemen, so what they do is they pay the locals. For example, in Syria, so they pay bullets for the locals. They don't pay foreign fighters, as far as I know. They pay locals.
We know that from documents that they've captured from ISIS that Turkey and Saudi Arabia are funding them viciously.
Actually, Russians are the way in Yemen, because we have it. Like my father was an advisor to the president there.
Well,
he quit.
South
They're behind
North
but
Yemen
the way
was
he invented
Marxist, right?
He invented like Ali Saleh invented the concept. After 9/11, created Al-Qaeda. He's Shia. He created Al-Qaeda as a cash cow because you want an alibi. It cannot be Hezbollah one. Plus, he used it to blackmail and their documents with foreign affairs and others. So there are actually lots of documents. It's highly documented. So he used Al-Qaeda as a cash cow, and then ISIS, and he gave them a country, an Islamic State in 2000. Islamic State. Of course, the rebels killed the state. I mean, like the revolutionary the tribes nearby killed it. But he tried to use ISIS to discredit the revolution. But yeah, Yemen is a very tribal society. It's not as modernized. It's not as secular. So like everyone knows everyone. So it's really hard to bullshit people there.
Yes.
Because whereas Iraq and Syria are more Western-like, so you do have urban areas where people actually don't know each other. Whereas in Yemen, everyone knows everyone. The whole tribal system works. Sorry, but
so Shia are the minority sect. I was just up in the in the world, in the Islamic world. It's
they're a
Sunni are
they're
the majority.
yeah, there are lots of different sects. Shia is a minority sect, and there are lots of different types of Shia.
Exactly.
The
Yes,
one
yes,
that's
yes, yes.
but here's the thing, like in Yemen, just so that lots of people are like, oh, we hate Shia. I'm like, no, the problem Shia are the same as ISIS. It's political Shia. Iran calls itself Islamic Republic. ISIS calls itself Islamic State. When you have people who, highly politicize it in that sense and mix it up with Marxism, both do. Both Iran combine Marxism with, once you mix SJWs with
Yes. I liked that. I liked your video.
a big problem.
You just reminded me. I liked your video on why feminism is like radical Islam. I really liked that video that you did about a month ago, or a bit after. You compared. You even showed that. Yeah, that is very insightful, and
That's how it
people
works. So.
exactly. I know exactly. That's how it works. They want to impose such. It's weird. It's like group group think.
People idiots.
Yeah, exactly.
It's basically some people who don't believe in the thing that they push, right?
Yeah.
At the top.
No, I think they actually do, but they are so insecure that they want to do that, belong to a group.
No, the people, like, okay, with parliament, right? The people at the very top don't believe in feminism. They believe in basically every new intern they can, right? And then they get the girls who want to get ahead. They tell them, okay, so you're a feminist. And the person's like, oh my God, you just screwed the girls. Like, okay, so now you have to make the attention about pickup artists or college boys on the football team. Seriously, this is what happens. So the girls, they blame the victim, okay? They blame the new interns.
Americanized for me. In Europe, it's a bit different. I can give you an example of how our politicians work. In 1974, we had a revolution to kick out our dictator.
Yeah.
In 1975, we had a counter coup, a coup and a counter coup. The Communist Party almost took over. By 3 days, if the Communists had held out for 3 more days, NATO would have invaded Portugal. And I fucking hate the Communists for that, because we would have been much better. All our laws and shit would have been better. Now, we do not want dictators from any side, left or right.
Exactly.
Our most extreme right-wing parliamentarian now in Parliament is the Christian Democrats. They are just slightly center. They're not very far from center, as is the Christian Democrat, the Social Democrats, which is even closer to center. You have the Socialist Party, which is very center left. The Communist Party, which is just a little bit after that. The Communist Party I'm talking about, not the Communist Party that used to be. The founder of our Communist Party, his name was Alvaro Cabral. He visited Moscow. He talked to Brezhnev. He loved Brezhnev. He went there regularly. He would any crime that the Soviet Union used to do, he would say, no, that was nothing. Don't look at that. Don't look at that. So they used to be more radical than they are now. Now they are just a slight of center left. Then you have the leftist bloc, which should be in Germany, would be almost Marxist, but they're not here in Portugal. The closest you get to Marxism is the Greens, and they have one member in Parliament, Portuguese Parliament.
In Canada, things are going really weird.
Trudeau would be left, but totally, really far left of our most extreme left we have in Parliament. Yeah.
Wow. So, by the way, it used to be a centrist party. So, right, the Liberals used to be. Actually.
I know. Yes, I know. I know his father.
Yeah.
I know how he was. Yeah.
He was center. The father was center left, but I'm talking about Paul Martin, but so the Liberal Party is what's popular of the day in Canada. So it reflects the mood of the society of the day. It's doesn't stand for anything really. That's how it works, but which is kind of scary assessment of stuff. Anyway, so we have center right, that's conservatives, by a woman, Ambrose, and then we have basically NDP and Liberals. So before, NDP was the left-wing party. Democrats. You can see what happened to the political spectrum. And then you have Trudeau, who's like went far to the left and went farther than them. So there our little is now center compared to, which is very scary. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
So,
yes,
but
yes.
I worked for his party, and I worked for the other left-wing party. I am a former leftist. After working for those two parties, I realized that leftism is cancer in a way. There's some sort of things I like, since I'm a centrist, where I think, you know, government healthcare is a good idea, much better than having corporate healthcare.
So do I.
I like, yeah. So there are like a couple modifications. I'm a pragmatist. I'm not an ideologue. I'm like, yeah, we can borrow a couple things from other systems to make our system work, right? But I don't believe in taking the whole system.
No, I can't. And that's why Portugal fears anybody that is a dictatorial. We don't have shit courses. Yeah, I mean, it's feminism courses. We don't have gender studies. We don't have that shit in our universities.
Do you know that we have a gender studies program funded by the government of Denmark?
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
Ruthie Caveman.
Yeah, exactly. Hello, Red.
Hello.
Maria, this our new guest, Red Frog. She's Russian, Ukrainian. No, Russian. Russian. Yeah, and she's also an anti-feminist. And
awesome.
so yes. And welcome, Red.
Yeah, glad I can be here.
Yes.
Thanks for.
So yeah, in Portugal, our school system is not yet infected by feminism to the degree that it is in the Anglo-Saxon countries, and beginning to be in Germany, because Kraut and T mentioned that they looked very low esteem on the feminism in Germany.
Yeah, I mean, there's a great example today that article Kraut shared in Der Spiegel by that.
Yes.
Stokowski or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I swear. I want to punch that woman in the face when I see her.
How about Sweden? Like, this is a huge problem, and it's I think Marxism is passive, like social Marxism or feminism is social Marxism, and it's passive-aggressive totalitarianism.
Oh yeah.
Like we were talking about before, about that supposed rape case in California, which he only got 6 months, and the feminists are now calling the poster boy of rape culture and that. But if those stupid idiot feminists have had any brain, they'd see that they made the laws that California uses to judge people on rape. The judge wanted, I told Maria before, the judge wanted to convict him to 20, 30, 40. He should have castrated him and then 20, 30 years in jail. But no, he couldn't because he didn't put his dick in her. And I'm not going to apologize for having ladies here. But yeah, that's it.
We're adults, we can take it.
Exactly.
Actually, no. Rape.
It just boggles me that they are so stupid that they want so much hate of men of cis white man, which I am proud of. Actually, I'm a Celt. My little spot where I live in Portugal are Celt descendants, the Celtish people. We were oppressed by the Romans, the Visigoths, the Swabians, the Moors, the Spaniards for 50 years. Shit, and we're still here, and I'm proud of my people.
That is awesome. I think the whole point of feminism is to break the men that are the fighting men. And yeah, my grandfather taught at the military academy in Moscow and Monina. So he was a colonel in the Russian army, and he was saying that yeah, they were doing like Russia was doing things to break the military morale of men during the USSR times. There are actually some interesting books by ex-KGB people on that topic. So yeah, that's the whole point of what they were pushing at that time in the 60s was to try to break the morale of break down the Western family and the morale of the military man. It was based on Leninist failed experiments in the 20s, so they wanted to get rid of religion, and so they did all sorts of things. They recognized gay rights, they built apartments with no kitchens in them, had feminism, did everything anti-religion, and it really killed military morale. So Lenin basically started shutting down some of the experiments. Stalin shut down all of them and put a Christian moral code. But they realized, oh, there are certain things that really affect military morale in a very bad way, and Lenin wanted to persecute people and stuff, and realized, oh, if our soldiers have no morale from all these experiments, how can we kill more people? So
actually,
this is in the way.
more Stalin that actually persecuted more people, but yeah.
Yeah, but
same
even
thing.
with Lenin, there were some people who were causing trouble, you know. So
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, Stalin had purges. Lenin had, oh, this person is politically incorrect. Zap, you know.
Well, until
So
the end,
whereas-
until the end, till Stalin went nuts, and basically one day you were his friend, and the other day.
Yeah, no. Under Lenin, it was definitely much freer, especially in the beginning, especially with NEP. At the same time, there were like, it wasn't completely, what do you call it? Stalin went and did actual large purges, whereas with Lenin, if you got in his way, zap, you know?
Yeah. Of
It
course,
was more. Lenin was more idealistic, as would have
Lenin
been
was also
Trotsky.
more flexible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trotsky would have also been very idealistic. Stalin, being from Georgia, he had. I think Stalin would have been. You could almost classify him as a feminist in many aspects. He behaved a lot like that. He stifled dissent. He promoted political correctness within the party.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. This is just from
Western feminism got the doctrine from there, so he
Yeah,
exported. He exported a combination of like his stuff and failed Leninist experiments. I can actually name a couple of the communist goals from the 1963 Congress report, and I wonder if it sounds familiar to you. Gain control of key positions in radio, TV, and motion pictures. Use student riots to promote protests against programs or organizations that are under attack from not being communist. Trigoy-Puff, right? Remember Milo Yiannopoulos? Doesn't that sound familiar?
Yes.
Point number 23. Control art critics and directors of art museums. Our plan is to promote ugliness, repulsive, meaningless art. Point number 25. Break down cultural standards of morality by promoting pornography and obscenity in books, magazines, motion pictures, radio, and TV. Point number 26. Present homosexuality, degeneracy, and promiscuity as normal, natural, and healthy. 27. Infiltrate churches and replace religion with social religion. Discredit the Bible and emphasize the need of intellectual maturity, which does not require a religious crutch.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Gain control of more unions. Gain control of big business like Facebook and Twitter, right?
Yeah.
Discredit the family as an institution, point number 40. Encourage promiscuity and easy divorce. Point 41, very key. Emphasize the need to raise children away from the negative influence of rebelling, right? Attribute prejudices, mental blocks, and retarding of children due to the suppressive influence of parents.
Yeah, yes. It's
So here are some
very,
of
very
the
familiar.
points. Yeah. Oh, point number 35. I call it the Black Lives Matter point. Discredit and eventually dismantle the FBI.
Yes. They're having trouble. No, they're not having trouble at all. They're in many places they're trying to succeed, but they're also creating a backlash, which you can see it. It's tentatively in many places.
Because some people are actually capable of noticing this is just an old record on replay. It's been done, it failed. And especially the people that had contact with it, they know what this stinks of. I know what this stinks of. I saw it before.
We do. People who have lived under dictatorships see the shit that they're trying to promote.
Yeah, and there is a difference between totalitarian and authoritarian systems, right? And
yes, a bit, yeah. But it's very fine line, yeah.
It's not. It's like, and I've lived under both, and just to let you to understand, like, authoritarian is you respect the dictator, you don't mess with him, he doesn't mess with you, you can believe what you like, who cares, right? As long as you just don't mess with this guy being in power. Totalitarian is they have to have mind control day in, day out of media, of everything. Like in Yemen, now it's totalitarian with Iran, right? With the Houthis, but prior to Houthis, Saleh was authoritarian, then we had democracy. And then there was a coup. But the totalitarian system, and I was born in Moscow, in USSR, they control everything. And what ISIS is very similar is they are also come from Ba'ath, or Iraqi former communist party. So they use a Marxist system, Iran as well. So again, they use Marxist form of, this is the key thing with Islamists, is they borrow a dynamic from Marxism for oppressing, like their Sharia police and SJWs are similar, because this is where it comes from. Like, we never had this, when people say Sharia police, this is stuff we see on TV, you know? We had one crazy group at one point, but they got kicked out. But Houthis, and this is where it's from. And Houthis like to pair up with SJWs. I have some videos how they march together with them. It's ridiculous. Houthis say how they support gay rights in the West when they persecute gay people back home. So,
well,
they're very
useful idiots. It's a whole theory of useful idiots. They groom them, they make them believe shit, and then they do their bidding for them.
Exactly. I have a whole video on that, and I was like, it's whether it's a terrorist organization like Radical Islamists, or it's a feminist, it's the same thing. So when people say, oh, the whole problem is Islam after the ban, you must recognize Islam as the problem, I'm like, I'm sorry, but there is like the whole useful idiot thing. Like, if you really want to address it, by calling a shoe a suitcase doesn't work. Just because they were made in the same country. There
is beginning a real backlash in many countries. I've seen the news, and the common people are voting in the direction that I don't really like to see. I'm a centrist, but I don't want. I'm centrist left, a little bit left, especially in social and in economic sectors way, because I want a protection of job rights and also protection of good profits for the companies. That'll be a very slight centre left. But what's happening now in Europe, because of the SJW, at least in Europe, because of SJW bullshit that's been pushing, that are pushing for this, the people who are normal, they live it. They live all this bullshit shit that's happening. They are saying, this government is fucking bullshitting. I'm not going to vote for him in the next elections. Germany, just about last month or 2 months ago, they had two or three regional elections. Merkel got murdered. She got absolutely shitted on. She
I was really surprised. And I think the other great example of the pendulum swinging is the one that actually gets the most coverage in the media lately. It's the thing that Americans are doing with Trump.
Exactly, yeah. The normal people are seeing the bullshit from the old Republican Party, are seeing the bullshit from the Democratic Party, and what do they see? Trump. Fuck political correctness bullshit. I am my own man. By the way, he is a Democrat. If you want to know,
he's a centrist mostly too.
He's a centrist Democrat. He's what the Democratic Party was in Carter's time.
Carter, JFK.
Yeah, exactly. No, JFK, Carter. That's what Trump is now, and people are fucking loving him.
Of course.
He's not stupid. He knows what he's doing. He's just running on the Republican side because it's fucking easy to get votes from the Republican side.
Yeah, and you know what he did, which is really smart, and this is a big problem with Trump supporters, and they do alienate and scare people this way, but he does it in a smart way. I call the technique Donald Trumping. So he brings up an issue that's borderline controversial, talks about it frankly,
Yeah.
but doesn't say, for example, he says, okay, we have to talk about that this, it's a radical Islamist. He doesn't say Muslim terrorism. He says radical Islamist, exactly. It's the SJWs of the Muslim world. Yeah, we have to talk about it. But he says it, and all the Democrats are waiting for the next thing. The Democrats are looking for Hitler. So he's playing with them. So he never gives them anything to show that he is going to send minorities to Auschwitz.
Because he's not going to.
So that they go crazy because they're saying, he's just about to send minorities to Auschwitz. He's just about to send minorities to Auschwitz.
Yeah, I actually see a lot of that because I sometimes venture into the cesspool of, let's put it this way, leftists' websites and their little comment sections, and oh, for fuck's sake, misogynist, racist, sexist, whatever, literally Hitler. I mean, everyone knows that one from Twitter.
Yes.
He's smart. No, he's smart. So what he does is, there's actually statistics where comparisons to Hitler make you more likely to get elected, as long as they're not valid, right? Invalid comparisons to Hitler. This is the key, and this is a huge problem like I have now with Milo Yiannopoulos, who I liked, but he went off after the massacre. It's understandable. He went nuts.
I haven't seen his posts yet since the post.
He's basically like saying the problem is me and I'm a terrorist, right? Basically. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Me and the shooter guy, we're not the same. But so when people see that, they get really scared because during the Holocaust, Hitler said the problem, there was like a stabbing attack of a diplomat somewhere that led to Kristallnacht. And
it was in Paris.
Yeah, in Paris, yeah. And then there was, Der Strömer talked about the banality of evil, that any ordinary Jew, your ordinary Jewish psychologist, this person too might kill you, blah, 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 might hurt you, etc. Might hurt the German woman. So they said, even the ordinary Jew next to you, and they kept pushing that might be bad.
Yeah, there was a lot of propaganda based on that, especially hurting the German woman and raping them. I mean, there were a lot of movies about that. What was that particular one propaganda film called? It was called The Jew and the Last Name of the Man, but I don't remember what was that.
Yeah, so what people are scared, now here is the difference, is when there is a reality, and then you take away the problem, the racism goes away, right? Because you have people of you basically have a lack of policing, you have criminals from a part of the world that does practice Islam. You have all the criminals there, the militias from there, right? Who go to Europe to do things that they would never do in their own country. I mean, you have people in North Africa go to Europe to do things they would never do in their own country because they'd get shot. Or you have a militia who go there. And yeah, and of course, the result of weak policing and this sort of stuff.
Yeah, the actual biggest problem.
It creates an actual rape crisis, right?
Exactly.
No, and the thing is, you solve this rape crisis, and people, by saying, okay, no more criminals, we go to fight ISIS, we go to clean up where the refugee flow came from. And yeah, and then people will stop, the racism that comes and the bigotry, it's a result of a real threat of real rape. So you stop the rape, and people stop hating. It's not from propaganda.
Exactly.
It's from reality, right?
Exactly.
But and the hate that came from Nazis came from propaganda as opposed to the reality. So it smells similar, right? So of course people get freaked out. But if you're a rational person, you can see that, okay, this is just a reality that people were appeasing evil. It's not Muslims, it's cucks. That's the problem. We stop being cucks. The local Muslim population we have aren't going to go into ISIS and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, I actually always say when people say, I hate Muslims, I say I don't hate Muslims. I hate Islam in its pure form because, let's face it, that ideology in its purest form has a lot of bad. There's a lot about murdering infidels in the Quran and stuff like that. But that's the thing. It's the same with Catholics. The ones that want to follow it to the T, they're going to be nuts. They're going to be nuts. But there's then the other group of Catholics who go to church like once a fucking year and don't give a shit.
Whereas I found in Yemen, the practicing
Catholics
ones
have stopped doing that shit.
Yeah, a few hundred years ago. Yeah, but I'm just comparing this.
But even
no, exactly. That's a good comparison. I think that Islam is at the point where about the 1577-ish era, just before the Enlightenment and with the Lisbon earthquake, that was the turning point of Christianity in Europe. That until then, it's a bit of history. Until then, the Christians were dogmatic and shitted. But Portugal was like, you can compare it to Saudi Arabia of the Christianity. That's how fucking pious we were.
And the Spaniards as well, even though they were
But I agree, but not as much as Portugal. We were the Saudi Arabia of Christendom in the 14th, 15th centuries. And the earthquake of Lisbon in 1755. Yes, 1755. No. It's the big earthquake, 1577 or 1755. I can't remember. I'm just a bit too drunk.
Well, 1755 would be a bit too late because then we'd be mid-18th century.
I'll look it up now while I introduce Feminist Flow. Hello, mate. How are you?
And good. How are you?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I missed you, Maria. I like it so much when you say cock like that.
Yeah, hey, we're going to put up a show called Cuckwatch. So feel free to contribute cucks. Justin Trudeau was
1755. That was the earthquake. Okay, what happened there? We were the Saudi Arabia of the Christendom. 1755 earthquake led directly to the Enlightenment in Paris, where the first people, the first atheists grew up. Especially the French philosophers and so on, looked at Portugal. How the most Catholic, most pious country in the world suffers that shit. God, why did they punish him, Portugal? They were doing exactly what the Bible was saying. They would kill the Jews, they would kill the Muslims, they would go to church as much as needed, and they do everything. Everything that they did was for God's sake, Christ's sake, in fact. And they said, why did they suffer that? If they were so good in God's eyes, why did they suffer that catastrophe? That's led to the Enlightenment. And
we had a different cycle. We had a cycle where we had first you had Islam, then you had the Enlightenment, then we had decay of civilization. We had barbarian invasions, right? And then
Islam had a sheikh, had a religious scholar that basically made science haram. 12th century, 11th century, no, 11th century, 10th century, 10th century.
Well, in the Baghdad Caliphate, actually, it was so Harun al-Rashid promoted all the different sciences.
Yes, that was before. That was before.
Yeah, there were some atheists at the time, but when it was invaded by barbarians, people started to wonder,
which was much later. Which was later.
Yeah. So
where the timeline. Yeah, as an archaeologist, I know the timeline is spread. I think you can track it.
So
exactly.
Basically, Baghdad got invaded by barbarians.
Exactly,
and
but
then,
they were already in the climb. I'll look up while you can talk. You can talk. I'll look up the actual date because I know it.
There were quite a few hyper-religious scholars like Hanafi who were thrown into prison because they were not convenient. They weren't. So they promoted sciences, all sorts of things. That was really interesting. Algebra was invented in Zabid in central Yemen, so it's near where I'm from, in Yemen. But yeah.
I can argue that it was in Iberia, but I won't argue. By the way, I won't argue. Yes, they were in many. The Islam invented algebra. Algebra is an Arabic name. Yes. I won't argue, but
yeah.
So we're sort of on agreement, except the location, but it's the same. I'm not going to argue about that. No worries. No argument.
But anyway, so there was a lot of invention and sciences and everything, and then it collapsed. And that's so the Islam we see since, like that time it was Mu'tazilite. It's very similar to the concept of deism, meaning God created the world and then left and doesn't have anything to do with life today.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But the Mu'tazilites were crushed militarily. So people tend to have the belief of that which can help them survive the hard times, basically.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, and people are wondering, why are all the women covering up all the stuff? It's because the country that's helping everyone is Saudi Arabia. Like in Yemen, women aren't covering up. We have our own religion and traditions, right?
Yes.
And the Houthis were trying to impose the scarf, so we're actually taking off the veil, and some women wear headscarves, some show hair, so it's like we're a bit more religious, but so we have our own thing, and Saudi helped us the way we are, including some of the Marxist groups against the Houthis. So, but we protested for democracy, we protested for freedom, we protested for Western values, just like Ukraine, Euromaidan. We wanted to live like the West. Nobody in the West helped us. They didn't help Ukraine.
The thing is with Ukraine that they weren't actually protesting for democracy because the right wing that took over, they have strong ties to neo-Nazis, the Azov group.
No,
And,
they do
and
not.
they do,
They do not.
and they celebrate
They
the
don't, like,
UPA, the
sorry, they
Ukrainian
don't.
People's Army.
And I, like, you know, I contribute to the Azov battalion. There are,
Can I
like,
just interrupt? Can I
Muslims
just
and Jews
interrupt?
in there, so sorry.
Can I just interrupt? I
The
hope
Ukrainian People's Army was responsible for one of the
one
unmentioned
at a time,
genocides.
please. Red and Maria, one at a time. You guys can speak all your mind, but so you don't shout over each other, please.
Yeah,
One at a time.
yeah.
Yes.
With Ukraine, here is the big issue with Russians. Like, we have nasty debates over it because of the. So if you see stopfake.org, there are lots of fakes coming out, and there is lots of emotional propaganda. A lot of it debunked, and so yeah, of course, people will have strong opinions. And what I know of Russian propaganda is that I was attacked because I didn't support Houthis, and I found Russian people who were training them. I caught them, and I saw a whole little network with Syria, with Yemen, there was this little Iran and Russia network, and they were saying fakes about things that were happening in my town that didn't happen, and I proved it. There were also human rights agencies who did the same. My friend proved it. Human Rights Watch messaged Houthis, and they had him kidnapped. So there is, there is an information war going on. So I mean, yeah, of course, we'll have different opinions. I'm married to Ukrainians, so I will have, of course, a different opinion than a Russian who's not.
Yeah, but also the thing is that Ukrainians like to forget about 1943, the massacre of Volyn, where over 100,000 people were brutally slaughtered.
You like to forget about 1932, okay.
Well, can we concentrate on the current year, please? I can blame the Romans who they no longer exist for all the shit that's happened, and please no, let's concentrate on the current year.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah, right now there are lots of countries that protested for Western values and flew the European flag. The European flag, by the way, it's blue and it has yellow stars in it.
I hope they kick Portugal out, by the way.
What?
I hope they kick Portugal out and Brexit occurs.
Yeah. So yeah, there were groups of people around the world who were tired of the corruption in their government, and they saw that the West was not corrupt, and they flew the Western flag and wanted Western values. This has happened more than once, okay? Around the world, right? And then the West doesn't come to their aid. And they have to rely on themselves.
And so they decide to beat the crap out of any dissenters and basically beat them to death and make them eat glass.
Show me proof. Okay, show me proof at the end. I don't want to argue about this because what I see with my eyes is one thing.
There's a very good documentary on Russia Insider where actual victims talk about it who were beaten and tortured by the right-wing groups that fought at Maidan.
Oh well, there are lots of fakes in Yemen. The Houthis go around and say they caught them. I'm a victim. The guy was caught. He was actually a BBC guy, was BBC journalist, okay? He was telling the Houthis, so say, oh, I was injured at this and that. So, and we had somebody who was in Sana, actually managed to film it and then put it on the internet because it was ridiculous. Ali Saleh is at the Russian embassy every other day, and he coordinates with that. So there's so many fakes. And I'd love to believe you if it weren't for the sheer number of fakes and the Russian trolls involved with Yemen. Like this is why I'm like, okay, I understand. It reminds me of what happened during Soviet times, and it's a good tactic because Putin said Goebbels is a talented man, and Goebbels say repeat a lie enough and people will think it's true.
Goebbels learned from Portugal, by the way. Portugal was the first actual dictatorship not fascism like Mussolini. Our dictatorship started in 1926. Hitler was 33-ish, so you can see the difference. And we employed, in Portugal, and we still do, even today, many of Goebbels' tricks in that. So,
Yeah. So it's
However, if you want,
but we're
we
sort
can
of
But yeah,
going into muddy
my point
fields,
that
which
I wanted to talk
is
about
not
is
needed.
simply about the West. Is that many people worldwide try to embrace Western values, and then at the time when there was a Democrat in power, and when you have a cuck in power, the cuck just let people go. So, for example, when the Berlin Wall fell, Reagan was there, and the transition didn't turn into Syria, Libya, Iraq bloody mess like now, right? But when you had Carter, you look at the Iran hostage crisis, and when you have a cuck leader, people sense weakness, you know? And when people sense
Carter was sort of set up because America, you live in Canada. I hope you know how America works. Feminist Flo does, because he lives in America. You do, don't you? Yeah. Yes. The leader, of course, is the president, but who has the power is Congress. They make the laws. Okay? So, when Carter was in power, the Congress was a slight Republican power. So they delayed. This document, they actually negotiated with Khomeini to not release the prisoners until after the elections. Which see what I mean? It was it was Cold War tactics. Fuck the Cold War. That was the worst shit that happened to humans.
Yeah, I agree fully. I agree fully.
You see what I mean? It's Americans aren't innocent. The Soviet Union isn't innocent. It was a fucking mind game. Yeah,
are assholes.
Exactly.
So my grandfather said about World War II the same. He said the reason why we won against the Nazis is because we're just like them, if not worse.
No. World War II was just, of course, the West was morally superior. You can't kill people. Fuck's sake. You can't do that. Portugal did that, and we're still paying for that. We expelled the Jews because one of our kings married a Spanish princess, and the Spaniard said, if you either marry her, if you want to marry her, you have to kick the Jews out of Portugal. That was the biggest mistake Portugal has ever did. They went to Holland, and they acknowledged the Enlightenment. Holland just exploded in everything. In maritime power, in economics, in scientific power, everything. While Portugal just fucking built churches with all the gold that they got from exploiting the colonies and that shit. I hate that part of history. Even though I'm proud of it, as by the way, I am proud of what our history is, but I hate the outcome which they could have done better. See what I mean? And you can't kill people just based on your stupid phobia, not phobia, bigot of them.
I agree fully.
Islam, at the moment, actually needs a reformation like we had in the Christian churches.
I disagree fully, because in terms of it's wrong to kill people just for it says in there, and if there is going to be a reform, every reform attempt of this is why I say like we can't do it. Why? Every attempt, when I saw this reform Muslims, they attempted to feminize it, into like mix feminism into it. It just got SJWified. I think there is a time and a place for reform, but I just don't see with all those feminist mobs, this is not the time and place for it.
But feminists are supposedly atheists, so they will not get into the reforming religions. Look,
feminists believe in feminism. That's their religion.
Exactly, that's their own religion. Exactly, but look,
they've been infiltrating. Look, they've been infiltrating. We have female imams now. I'm serious. They have
What?
been infiltrating our religion. We have female imam sermons. Yeah, no. There
Please,
have been like feminists.
send me the links, please. I beg you to send me
Yeah, I
the
will
links. I
send you
would
the
love to.
There
I
is
want.
feminists.
there's an
Are
Are you
together.
saying Islam is more progressive than Christianity now?
I'm saying that what progressives and Muslims are working together. So there are some segments that try to create hyper-progressive reform to the point where Christians are like, what the hell is that? So I can send you links, including an LGBTQ mosque. So there are all sorts of crazy things happening in a sense that.
Yeah, LGBTQ
I don't mind. Look, I really don't mind.
It's like the
The
Twilight Zone.
LGBTQ mosque.
It's a
But
bit
there was some SJW
contradictory.
at the
I believe.
LGBTQ mosque where I'm like, you know what I mean? I'm totally cool with non-leftist gays, you know? But when a person is hyper-progressive and they're any minority, I don't care. If you're hyper-progressive and you're black, you're gay or something, and you're using your minority card as a stick to bash other people with who are the mainstream people who are like especially the cis men male fighters who protect your people. That's who feminists attack, right? The people who are supposed to be the men in the army, that's generally who they attack, right? And they try to mess up people's army. So when it comes to providing security, I mean, these feminists are a frigging problem, and they have been like trying to fiddle with Islam for quite some time. So the moment you like give them an inch, they will just like break it into a mile, you know. So.
But in this case, I actually hope the feminists actually break Islam. Honestly.
Yeah, I agree on that.
No, actually, no. What they have is like Houthis have a school with SJWs. They have a gender studies school. So they like don't reform it in the ways that are productive, right? So basically, Muslims just protest when they hear Christians say reform to them. When they hear atheists say reform, they just hear the Holocaust. They hear Jews telling, they hear Germans telling Jews, you don't fit in, and then Jews gave up their religion, became more secular, reformed, and they went into the gas chambers anyway. So
Jews actually, by nature, are more ready to become atheists than any other Abrahamic religion. I've noticed that they just
they're more adaptational.
They read. That's one of the reasons why I actually support Jews, because they are more likely to be atheists. But there are two Catholics until the Reformation, until Martin Luther nailed the list in the Church of Wittenberg. What was that church?
Yeah. But here's
Wittenberg
Wittenberg.
What?
So what's the final result?
Wittenberg, thank you. Yeah, they were basically Islam as it is now. They were.
Yeah, and they would be able to. They were good fighters, right? They were able
but
to.
I'm not going into that. I'm going into the philosophy and their stance and their
us,
dogma.
what's important is who's a good fighter and who can help us in the time.
Islam needs a Martin Luther at the moment. There will be about 200.
It does not.
200 to 300 years of a civil war between them until they become what we are now.
Secular... Look, you guys abandoned Ukraine in a time of need.
We're not talking about Ukraine, Maria. We're not talking about Ukraine.
But I'd actually like to circle to one thing you said earlier, and then things moved on. If you want to blame everything on propaganda, then you can actually discredit any type of evidence, any video footage. When you say cameras don't lie, when you see burning buses full of people,
okay, talk to an Israeli and tell me, Hamas, you can say that, okay. Now, Hamas has stages some burnings, I've heard. And then I have seen evidence of this, and I don't think that's cool. I think that discredits the Palestinian cause. I'm actually pro-Palestinian, but some of these tactics, I am like, what the hell? Same with Hezbollah. They do it. And I'm like, you cannot have, if we want the Palestinian cause, the whole Pallywood crap has to stop. Because Israelis take Palestinian land, they steal it. And there is evidence. And then we have some Pallywood movie coming out, and then Israelis are like, oh, but look, here's proof that they lie. And if you look at Thomas...
No, let's not speak about the Jews. We're not speaking about the Jews and that they are... Oh, God, no.
No, it's that, of course, you have your local Jewish-Palestinian skirmish. And I would say there could be some blame on either side. But what happens is, okay, and why Palestinians keep losing land, is there's some kind of a skirmish, and then the Palestinians go and make a fake movie. And then, of course, to Jews, it discredits them as liars. So Jews are not going to talk to them and take them seriously. So
exactly, but at the moment, Palestinians are not losing land. It's stopped. They're basically equilibrium is attained. And I know that
they have been losing land, but like individual. So there have been actual, like a couple months ago, there was a home taken down, etc. So it's at a micro level, but it does happen. However, what happens?
Look, yes.
It does
what's
happen,
happening
but
is
it's exaggerated. Do you know what I mean?
We are
it's
going
like,
to.
There's a stabbing attack in the market. It's like there was like a plot of land taken or something. I don't know, some plot of land dispute, and then a week later, some people go shooting in the market, and I'm like, I'm sorry, like the Quran says you don't go do that. You get put to death, and I'm like, for like shooting civilians in the market, like sorry, like you just can't go around like shooting people because you got mad in your real estate dispute.
But
like
that's
anyway, and the worst thing is the propaganda.
The point is that what the Jews are doing now in Israel, we will I predict in 10 years' time we will be at that point.
Yep, I agree. And the other side will be working with the left-wing activists.
No. The left-wing are totally irrelevant in Israel because they are cucks.
Really left-wing. Not Israeli left.
Yes, but they are cucks. They are absolute cucks at the moment.
That they're cucks. But what I'm saying is the NGOs, these are the bad guys, okay? They're the same bad guys in Yemen. That they lie, that they work with Hamas. Yeah,
no problem. I agree with you. Yeah, the NGOs are fucking
in Yemen they work with Houthis. Yeah. They don't like us, okay? So we're kind of... So, yeah, in Yemen, it's like the Sunnis are the Israelis of the human rights world.
What's his name? Shit. The leader of Al Qaeda. What's his name? My brain's not working.
Bin Laden.
Bin Laden. Thank you. I don't know if you guys know Isaac Cohen. He's a YouTuber. He's one of the most brilliant jihadist analyzers that I have seen. And he did an analysis. He did while Aura TV had unsafe speech. The fucking cucks cut that shit out, but it was total wrong. He had a series of videos explaining how Bin Laden, basically how Bin Laden worked. Did you know what Bin Laden did? He actually pushed for the attack of Yemen, all the wars in Yemen in the 90s, 80s, the 80s, and no, even earlier, 70s were Bin Laden's workings. His videos are no longer available, which I hope he gets them back on, because first, YouTube blocks his channel. They actually closed his channel. We had all those videos. I know he has them. Aura TV went down, and now he hasn't a place where he can put his videos up. But if you guys saw his videos, they are absolutely like a historian, totally neutral. He just presents the facts. And Bin Laden is one of the reasons Yemen, at least in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s, has been in war, because he wanted to get rid of the Shiites from Yemen.
You have any contact with him?
Yes, I do. I mean, I can get you in contact with him if you want.
No, you can just tell him he can throw his videos on vk.com. No one's gonna care there.
I will. Yes, Red. I follow you. You don't follow me in Twitter. I follow you, and I'm subscribed to your videos and all that.
I thought I followed you back. Sometimes Twitter does this to me, that I click follow and it says following,
but it doesn't matter. I follow you. We are both in Discord, so we're fine.
Yeah.
I will do that. I will send you, and I will send him anything. You know where to contact me. So yes, yes, because he is brilliant. His analysis is pure data. He doesn't offer any opinion himself. He just says, "This is what happens. This is what happens." He's brilliant. Yeah, he's a Jew, but fuck it.
There are also, like in Yemen, a lot of the best Yemenis are Jewish, you know. So, yeah.
Portugal is still actually reeling of the Jewish loss. We try to. Our king was Fernando, if I'm not mistaken. I forget my Portuguese kings. I know my English kings because I'm more British than Portuguese, but I get sometimes confused of my Portuguese kings. So I know it was after Isabel and Ferdinand conquered Granada from the Moors. Her daughter married one of our king's daughters, the prince, and all that shit. So yeah, one of the attributes was kick the Jews out. And we tried to delay that as much as possible, but we couldn't. That was when the Portuguese Inquisition started, about the same, just before the Spanish Inquisition with Torquemada.
Yeah, Torquemada.
Torquemada. You can't talk him out of anything.
Nah, you can't. I remember I actually named my report on the Spanish Acquisition Torquemada and Co.
Yes.
Wow.
Sorry.
I'm beginning to understand why Europeans hate religion, because like the kinds of stuff you're saying, it's like we never saw that, you know, growing up. Or just the craziest thing we see is Houthis going after Jews, and we think they're really psycho, but we think they're like psycho cave people. But yeah, because they came from caves and they're illiterate. But it's to hear what Christians did in the Middle Ages, even just a little bit. I mean, yeah, even like that turns, that makes the skin on our backs rise.
Is a total barbaric episode of Catholic Europe. Yeah, Catholic Europe.
Yeah, no, it is absolutely shocking. Like what? Like it even doesn't resemble what it says in the book itself, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's not even like.
Well, not all of Europe, because ironically, the Polish, who are one of the more Catholic nations now, were kind of like a Inquisition-free island. They actually took in most of the Jews that left Spain during the Exodus.
Yes, Holland and Poland and Turkey, for some reason which I can't understand.
No, Turkey, like Muslims, also Morocco took Jews.
Yeah. But they were in Istanbul, so it's in the European part. Yeah, that was a more free place. But shit, I forgot what I was gonna say. You guys continue while I remember.
Now I'm beginning to really understand what is going on. Because I was wondering how the Yemeni dictator and other Arab dictators could easily really scare and milk Europe with some like radical Islamist guy with like a knife on YouTube, and the crazy money they got from it. I mean, like, you can hunt them down and stop them, but the crazy, and so what they would do is they do a catch-release thing and everything, but the insane fear Westerners have with religion, like, now I understand, because we're like, oh, this is irrational, but it's irrational to a person who hasn't seen persecution and inquisitions except for the latest Houthi stuff, and the inquisitions that happened were when Nazism became popular. It was in response to Europe, the Inquisition of Jews. It wasn't there before. There were large Jewish communities and so on. So in response to a lot of stuff in the West, like, minorities began to be persecuted, but not before. So for us, we don't see it necessarily as religion, but as much as lots of crazy stuff in Europe came and really disrupted life. And,
It was, Hitler just blamed the most convenient minority, which were the Jews. But he could have easily blamed anyone else. It all came out from the Great Depression. If the Great Depression hadn't
blame the people who can't fight for themselves. Blame people who can't defend themselves.
But also blame the ones you can squeeze the most out of. We know Jews were always entrepreneurial, and by hitting them, you not only find yourself on a scapegoat, but you can actually steal a lot.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. That's probably the most valid reason why the Jews picked on the Nazis picked on the Jews, because they were
that's also
rich.
That's also the same reason Spain picked on the Jews, because they were rich.
Yeah, because the Catholic religion did not allow banks and interest rates. The Jews could do that, so they were jealous of them.
That makes sense. That makes sense, because whereas everyone, it's like Yemen, the Middle East is all entrepreneurial. This is the culture, and Jews come from, they're basically Arabs an Arab religious minority who moved to Europe, right?
Well, no. The Jews were not Arab minorities. We know who the Jews are. But
but Ashkenazi Jews actually have a lot of the same DNA.
But religion is one thing, and humans are another.
I'm talking about culture and DNA. It's a Middle Eastern group. They're not, they didn't come from, right? They came from the Middle East that had a culture, and the Mediterranean had a culture of entrepreneurial. You know how Italians, many Mediterranean people are entrepreneurial, especially Lebanese.
No, actually, the Italians, the Venetians had Jewish people doing their banking, because Catholics cannot trade money.
It's interesting. Whereas Muslims and Christians in Lebanon, like, they're highly entrepreneurial. So I mean, but trade in this area is like.
But they are not Catholics.
From more agricultural, and so women in Africa are very much like Jewish minorities.
Exactly.
When
there are three basic. You have the Copts of Egypt. You have the Orthodox of Eastern Europe. The Copts also are in the Druze. No, the Druze. They are sort of like the Copts of Egypt.
No, Druze
Orthodox,
are like an offshoot of Islam, so it's like.
No. Islam is later than Christianity. So.
Yeah.
400 years. No, 600 years.
Druze don't come from. We have other sects that are like Zoroastrian and so on.
Zoroastrian.
You mean Druids?
2000 BC.
Oh, okay, yeah. You mean Druids? I meant
No. My Celtic ancestors were Druids. I'm talking about the Druze Christians. Yeah. They are similar to Copts. They are based, and also Ethiopians. They are very similar in their
they're Orthodox. Ethiopian are Orthodox Christian.
The name is not. You can't apply them Orthodox to these. You can apply Orthodox to the Eastern Europeans, right?
Well, I don't know. In Ottawa, when they're
They follow,
there's
all of
lots
them follow the
Orthodox
four
stuff,
Gospels. All of them follow the four Gospels of the New Testament, but not all of them follow the other books that they've written that have been attached to the New Testament, Romans, Corinthians, etc., etc. See what I mean?
Yeah, and
There's
including
just
Aramaic and so on. But yeah.
exactly. There are four books that bind all Christianity together, which is the four Gospels of John, Luke, John, Luke, what was his name? The one that a similar name to the one that oh God, my brain's not working.
But the four evangelists?
Yeah, John, Luke,
Mark,
and Judas. Yeah, thank you.
No.
That's the one. Yeah, they bind all of Christianity, but then you have the other books.
Oh, Paul. Sorry, not Peter.
Paul, thank you.
Yeah, you know, like really, it's very interesting because what I see Eastern Christianity, right?
Yeah.
We don't see Copts going around persecuting people. We don't see like mass purges in Ethiopian Christianity. And Ethiopia is across the water from Yemen, and we have many Ethiopians in Yemen. We don't see that.
Yes.
And also there are Christians in Jordan, Syria, Iraq.
Yeah, because they are the Christian that are early Christians. The early Christians went as far as China. They have temples in China that are inspired by Christianity, but they adapted them to whatever the religion is.
So what we see is not anything like the Roman Catholic.
Yeah, because
they are like the Islam now. Exactly. Islam and Roman Catholic until the 16th century are the same. No difference.
Actually, it's no, it's not. No, what's really interesting is meeting Orthodox, like Copts and Muslims are fairly similar, and meeting practicing like Lebanese Catholic. No, we're not similar to them. I'm Sufi, by the way, so it's so moderate. But I have some friends who are Salafi. I have some friends, like we all get along, but so I'll have to go soon. But
so
in short,
no problems. Go on. So there's no problems you leaving. If you want to leave, you just say okay, thank you.
What I've seen with Salafis is like, and I have some friends who are like, they're totally cool with the fact that I'm not, like that I'm Sufi. So it's what I've seen is similar to practicing Orthodox Christians. Like it's really interesting. So when there are some Syrian, Ukrainian stuff, it was very similar culture and everything. But when it comes to like some Copts who are very practicing, it's really similar to. I know when people compare Islam to Catholicism, it's like comparing like apples and oranges, because Catholicism had a basis like Roman Catholicism in Roman structure, right? In hierarchy and so on. It's just that level of, when you talk about this level of fanaticism, like we call them like radicals, we call them crazy, we laugh at them. We call them barbarians, we call them cavemen. And this is even like I have quite a few Saudi friends, and they're cool with the way things are, but they're what do you call it? There isn't this whole. They're not like Baptists, right? Where Baptists, I find, are a bit more fanatical than us. They're like, they want to really push their religion everywhere.
I have no idea how Baptists are or behave. We don't have them here, so I'll take your word for it.
We had them in Yemen. They're nice when they're a minority in other people's country. So they're really nice. They're not cucks. They're awesome like that when they're in other people's country. But when they're in their own element, in the United States, totally different story, right?
Yep.
And they're like, oh, Jesus, this and that, and they're just really into this Jesus. And Muslims look at them like,
Yep.
what's that? You know? Because like, for us, the difference, it's like, okay, this is a guide to how not to get screwed over by life. And it's
Exactly.
really practical because like harsh conditions, you know, barbarian invasions, all this stuff, there are lots of like practical wisdom passed down across the centuries.
Portugal
Like,
had four. Well, Iberia had five barbarian invasions before the Moorish invasion. So yeah.
yeah, and what I mean by barbarian invasions is invasion not by somebody who's civilized, but by a civilized. But what I mean by this term, I borrowed from Muqaddimah. It's an interesting book. It talks about civilization cycles. It was written in the 13th century, but
I'm familiar with the cycles. Yes. Even though I haven't read that book yet.
So it's really interesting. It talks about. So I use the term barbarian invasions from Ibn Khaldun. So what he talks about is specifically primitive tribes overtaking a decayed, very advanced civilization whose men have become cucks.
That's
And
what
the defenses
the
have
gods
decayed.
did to Rome. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say that.
And then they settled in Portugal. The Suavians settled in where I live now. The Goths were slightly south. The Vandals also came, and they stayed here a bit. Then they went to North Africa, and they were finally defeated by Islam, Muslim invaders, Moorish invaders. So yeah, it's a cycle, obviously. Yeah.
It's amazing. Like I hear about the history of Europe. That was a pretty nasty place. How people survived there.
Oh,
I don't know. Like,
the Middle Ages was just pure conflict.
wow. Because yeah, no, it's like where I grew up. Yes, we have our tribal wars, but we have a break for lunch. I'm serious. And then the war is over between a certain time and a certain time. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then there's like
exactly.
it's like there is like their like tribal notions. So the war people fight between certain time. There's like a lunch break and a dinner break. So
Yes.
if you are a tourist, they're like, oh, yeah, the war is from this time to this time. Come a bit later, a bit early. With tribal wars.
Okay.
And
Do you think we can wrap this up now? I think 2 hours is enough for a chat.
yeah,
Yes.
that's great. Yeah, I just think it's like very insightful to see, like, because people are wondering why this call for reform and all these things. The way the Western Church was in the Middle Ages is really quite a shock to, like, even to Saudi, like the level of things people did is just shocking, because and the difference between like Islam and Christianity, Islam is more of, okay, there is going to be some group of Houthis or whoever who will attack you eventually. This is what you need to do to survive and kick their ass when they come.
Yes.
And if you don't have Houthis in your generation, you're lucky, but if your grandchildren do, just like how to like maintain the house so that the Houthis don't like burn all the books and your kids can't fight. So that's kind of like don't be a cuck is the whole like summary of it. And it's amazing, like aside from radical fanatics, like it's like a don't be a cuck guide, and to see people take it so serious, religion so, this is my whole life, Jesus day in day out, let's kill other people. For me, this is a wow, like to hear all this history that's like a total shock. And now I think Muslims will really understand like what's the fear, and now I understand how dictators can easily we're using this as a cash cow. They decided, oh, instead of secular communists, we're just going to make them have a Muslim face, and this will scare the West into financing our military budget and our big homes and our prostitutes in Germany. Germany was the main prostitute hub, and the minor people would go to Egypt for prostitutes. So this is how that used to work, right? There used to be a system, and now I get it. So we wondered, why on earth were Westerners like so irrational and so scared and so fearful that had they been slightly calmer, they would realize it's this guy pulling this scam to cover his whores and his big palaces and military and stuff.
Yeah, that's
And
a
would
good
have
point
questioned.
of view. Yeah. You want to say anything,
Yeah.
Feminist Flo?
Sorry?
You want to say anything? You've been quiet.
Yeah, because see, history is not my thing, so I keep repeating the same mistakes over and over.
Well, I don't like history, but I have to know it because shit. You now, Red and Flo know I'm an archaeologist. You too, Maria, know I'm an archaeologist, and I have to know history. I don't like history, by the way, but you guys know now. So, any last words we can all say? We're going to wrap this up. I think it was an honourable and very interesting conversation we had here.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it was really interesting. Definitely.
I have a word.
I actually
Don't be
learned a
attacked.
lot. So I learned a lot about history, which it's always a good thing. I like to learn things, but I mostly work on building the future, not learning history.
I just my last words. I know a lot of history, and if you don't learn from history, you are destined or cursed to repeat it.
Yeah.
So that's my point of view. So
It was so useful.
we can
Thank
continue. Yeah, we can continue in the future. You will all, as always, you are all welcome. I will send you links if my hangouts. I do them every Tuesday. This one was very, very insightful, and I liked it. It was different.
Oh yeah, Maria is awesome. I really like her.
Yes, I also like her. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I also thank you, and I'm really glad to see like men standing up to cucks in the West. This is really great, and of course, who enable feminists and standing up against radical feminism, and standing for equality instead of totalitarianism. So that's really great to see that, and learning about history, taking pride in your culture, taking pride in who you are, taking pride in being a man, being a woman, just loving who you are, and yeah, that's just really awesome to see awesome people. This is wonderful. That's really such a pleasure. I live in Trudeau's Canada, so you can't believe how wonderful it's to hear you guys. You're so awesome.
Thank you, Maria. Red, you want to say anything?
Yeah, I think that one of the things is it's great that men are standing up, but we also need women to actually go and slap those feminists in the face and tell them they're idiots. Shut up! Like, go to your little fishbowl if you can't swim with the sharks.
Thank you. You're amazing.
I can't say I love you both because it could be sexist, but I honestly and humbly admire both of you.
No, I'm not ashamed to say it. I love you both.
No, I'm not saying I'm ashamed. I'm just saying that my wife will have issues if I say it.
Oh, that, yeah.
You know.
I'm not
okay, people.
so I'm allowed to.
It was wonderful, and I'm stopping.